The Monster Hunter universe is full of strange and amazing creatures which are heavily inspired by both mythology and real-life biology. From classic drones looking like pop culture velociraptors to the hermitars looking like real-life hermit crabs, Monster Hunter monster designs have always had a bit of realism in them. With this new game, Monster Hunter Rise, what exactly are the inspiration behind the monsters? Are they only based off mythological creatures this time, or are they based off more concrete designs? Hello, I'm Professor Ginkgo, and welcome to Monstrology 101. As someone who loves the natural sciences, I just adore how Monster Hunter does their monster designs. Even the more fantastic monsters follow some natural convention. For example, save for the Elder Dragons, which in themselves are intentionally rule-breaking, all monsters share the same limbs their real-world counterparts would. Since all land vertebrates, for example, share 4 limbs due to a common ancestor, all monsters that are land vertebrates share only 4 limbs. This is why the iconic Rathalos is more of a wyvern rather than a 6-limbed European dragon. The same goes to the bug-like Neoterons and the arachnid-like Temnocerans. Now, I've been in love with Monster Hunter Rise. It's actually been one of the best games I've played in a while, and I just love every new monster design. Like always, each monster is inspired by a real-world animal, but there's also a twist. Each monster is also inspired by a Japanese yokai as well, which adds a bit of variety into the designs. And for this video series, I want to go every new monster in Rise and talk about its real world and its mythological counterparts. And with that being said, I'll start from the lowest star monster up to the highest star monsters. Although I will do my best when talking about these mythological beasts, I'm not all well too versed in yokai lore outside of having a general idea which each yokai is. If you're interested in the deeper lore and myths behind them, check out a YouTube channel like Gaijin Guma who specializes in Japanese mythology. Also, apologies if I butcher any pronunciations. I'm going to try my best to do them as they are, but I might screw it up. I screw up English a lot, so without further ado, let's get started. Like every hunter, let's start with the great Izuchi. Taking up the mantle of the starting punching bag from Jaggers before it, Great Izuchi is mainly there to teach you how to fight, and the yokai it's based off of is called the Kame Itachi. The Kame Itachi is a yokai said to live in the Koshinetsu region. It's depicted as a weasel with scythes for claws and is carried by the wind at speeds faster than the eye can capture. According to Aida tales, they travel in packs of 3. They find their prey and they strike. The first one will knock down the prey, the second slashes, and the third one treats the wound so it won't kill the target. Does that sound familiar to you? That'd be right if you thought the Izuchi all strike in unison, as refers to the yokai it's inspired by. This yokai actually has roots in a weird phenomenon. People get mysterious cuts while hiking the mountainside. If that sounds spooky to you, the more mundane answer that flying debris was more likely to cause. So sorry, no whirling weasels. Similar to a macaw from Generations, it's more depicted like a modern dinosaur than previous theropod bird wyverns. But unlike both the macaw and the dromes, wait, is that why they're called dromes? Huh. Anyways, they're based off the Alrevosaur clade of dinosaurs. Should you time travel to Cretaceous and see one, an Alrevosaur will look like a standard small theropod dinosaur at a glance. But then you notice 2 very glaring oddities. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, that arm there is entirely reduced to the point where even a T-Rex's arm is looking pretty meaty. The Alrevosaur arms were entirely specialized, but for what, we're not entirely sure. We do have some ideas though. Some theories say that they use those pointy bits to get at termites. Others though argue that the build of an Alrevosaur is poorly suited for breaking into mounds, and it'd have to lie up against a mound in order to break with a bug nest. The other suggestion points out that they look to be built for speed. If you couple that with a large foreclaw, they might have been egg raiders. The thought goes that they'd run up to a nest and use a foreclaw to break into an egg. If an angry dino mama were to come running, they'd be able to outrun with relative ease. Part of me wonders if that's why Capcom made the Izuchi armor look like Bandit armor. However, a recent 2020 paper looked at the unusual tail task compared to other theropods, and concluded it had a niche similar to pangolins and aardvark. The tail both in flexibility and in muscle attachment resemble that from other digging insectivorous animals, which use their tail to keep balance while digging. Although Great Izuchi still has 3 digits, digits 1 and 3 are greatly reduced in size. And honestly, I didn't even know it had more than 1 digit until I hunted it for the first time and started carving out its corpse. Looking at Izuchi side by side with the Alrevosaur, I personally think it looks more like that than the Dromaeosaurs, but please tell me what you think. Okay, but what about the tail spike? Were there any animals with any weird tail spike sickles things? Honestly, yeah, there was. See, the Triassic period was like a kid going crazy with spores creature creation. Their animals expand to a lot of niches now open thanks to the Great Dying. The Great Dying, or the end permanent extinction, was the closest the world's ever been to all life dying out. About 9 in 10 of all sea life, and 7 out of 10 of all land animals went extinct during that time. Should you look into a Triassic tree at that time, instead of a bird or a squirrel, you'd see a reptile hanging out on a tree. Maybe a bit literally. This is a trypanosome, an evolutionary dead end, so to speak. Trypanosaurs are sometimes nicknamed monkey lizards thanks to their long tails, and thanks to their builds, they are assumed to be tree climbers. Although there are some theorized aquatic and gliding trypanosaurs, they mostly were assigned to trees. They are weird animals with strange bird-like head and opposable toes. However, what we're looking at today is that long sickle tail the trypanosaurs were known to have. The tail is presumed to help it hold and grab onto a tree branch, or help it dig, honestly. And you can kind of see it with the gray Izuchi where it gets its tail stuck in the ground. I'm not sure if trypanosaurs were used as references to the tail, or for just one happy coincidence, but honestly it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if they were, just considering how much research Capcom does in these games. Well, that's all I got at the moment. Please tell me if you think anything else about Izuchi's design, I would love to hear it. So with that out of the way, let's go to Aknosom, the parasol bird. We go from one bird wyvern to another as we jump into Aknosom. Your average fire-breathing bird wyvern, Aknosom has a surprising amount of depth to it actually, and this was the inspiration for the video series. The yokai it's inspired by is called a Kasa Okabe, and you might know it as the jumping umbrella that shows up in Neon. The Kasa Okabe is a yokai belonging to a class called the Sukegome, which are possessed items that spring to life after being around for about 100 years. Not surprisingly, thanks to their goofy appearance, they're pretty popular and they show up in all sorts of media. Despite that, they don't actually have a lot of folklore around them. You can really see the inspiration in the concept art here, where the eye spot looks like the eye and it's standing on one leg. You'd be forgiven by thinking that Aknosom was based on cranes, and honestly, I can kind of see that. The way it gracefully walks around with staying on one leg really made me feel like that at first. But then I saw its intro animation in its cutscene, and oh boy. Okay, so you see how it does that shade around its eyes with the feathers like that? That's something that the black egret does in order to fish. The black egret, confusingly enough, is also known as a black heron, and it does something called canopy fishing. See, canopy fishing is when it creates shade like that right around its eyes just before it snaps up a prey. But why go all through effort for a fish dinner like that? Can't they hunt fish like a normal bird, like a pelican? Maybe not a pelican, like a seagull or something like that? Well, the reason for that is that the shade it creates attracts fish to the shade that think they're hiding under a lily pad. Unfortunately for them, the umbrella-shaped cover is in fact a deadly trap. It's a cool hunting strategy that I just think is so amazing. God, I love these birds. Overall, Monster Hunter's monster design is so amazing for a lover of the natural sciences like myself, and I just hope this makes you appreciate our amazing world just a bit more. I'm planning on going back and doing a bunch of videos like this on every single new monster in the game, and maybe after this, I'll go back and do the older ones, who knows. But we'll see after I finish this research series. I'm gonna go back to my lab with that, and you have happy hunting now. I want to thank Zero for helping me with the avatar animation. He's a very talented editor. Please go check out his stuff. He's just started right now, but he's working on a lot of stuff in the future. And honestly, it's gonna be really good. Please go check him out right there at his Twitter.